Some newspaper headlines underscoring the high stakes for Republicans and President Trump in today's primary elections. A potential battle for the power within the party by candidates claiming to be Trumpier than the president himself.
We all really like President Trump's policies, but we know that he doesn't get things right. I mean, he recommended that people vote for a guy that was basically accused of pedophilia in Alabama.
But do Republicans only have themselves to blame? With me now, Ken Blackwell, former Ohio Secretary of State. Steve Benjamin, the first African-American mayor of Columbia, South Carolina, my hometown. He's also the new president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And Chris Kofinas is with me as well, former chief of staff for Senator Joe Manchin. Good to have you guys. Thanks for being with me. Ken, let me start with you there, sir. This is what Dana Milbank wrote in the Washington Post today. This is just a snippet of it. Before Trump, there was the Tea Party movement. Senator Ted Cruz, the Republican Study Committee, the Freedom Caucus, the Republican Party tried to harness the rage of the nativist right, but ultimately could not contain it. Now, we have Blankenship, Roy Moore, Joe Arpaio, and the proliferation of name-calling misfits and even felons on the Republican ballots. They are monsters created by the GOP, or rather the power vacuum the GOP has become. Are chickens coming home to roost for your party, Ken?
No, again, Dana, not too many people in Ohio listen to Dana. The reality is this: the Republican Party controls the Senate, the House, all of the statewide offices, and one Senate seat, U.S. Senate seat. Look, this is coming down to which one of these candidates, Renacci or Mike Gibbons, can actually harness the energy of Trump voters. And I think that both of them have tried to attach themselves to the hip to Donald Trump, and it remains to be seen how long the coattails are of the president.
But you're talking about Ohio.
They're pretty long.
You're talking about Ohio specifically because, you know, that's where you are. But you look at some of these other races. I mean, you look at West Virginia, you look at some of the things that Blankenship has said, you would have to admit that a lot of the comments are outside, shall we say, the normal confines of civility.
Well, look, we just had a Democrat AG in New York resign for untoward activities towards women. So, look, there's no party has a claim to misfits. They pop up all over the place. And so the reality is that this is still a pretty free country. If you can get meet the requirements to be on the ballot, you can run. I believe that the voters of West Virginia will, in fact, pick the person that they believe will best serve their interests.
Steve, when the president did decide to come out against Blankenship, it wasn't because he disagreed with some of the more ridiculous things that Blankenship has said. He said that, you know, he can't win anyway. He can't beat Joe Manchin in November. Is there a danger for the president? There's the president's tweet right there. Is there a danger for the president to fight against more extreme Trumpism?
It's I will tell you, Craig, it's disheartening to watch the level of rhetoric and vitriol that comes out of Washington every single day. And it's also infected our state capitals. And I'm just excited to be here on behalf of the mayors of America, Democrats, Republicans, and independents who work every single day just to get the job done, recognizing that there are no Republican ways or Democratic ways just to get things done on behalf of the people of your city, pick up trash, police your streets, really just, and it's we hope and pray that our message of bipartisanship, or indeed days of nonpartisanship, might begin to elevate up to our state capitals in Washington, D.C.
It sounds like you're saying that the vitriol that exists on the national level has not filtered its way down to the local level?
I feel very comfortable speaking on behalf of the 1,400 cities and America's mayors, again, of all political stripes. You know, that President Lincoln, a great Republican president, said, you know, we're not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. We have to make sure that every single day we speak to the better angels of our nature and we start working on really solving the problems facing America. Name-calling, partisan politics, the vitriol doesn't solve problems. We got issues, infrastructure, preparing for this new innovation economy, what's happening all across this country and this world, and certainly starting to foster a better language around inclusion, bringing people, recognizing that the issues that bring us together are much more prolific than the ones that separate us.
Chris Kafinas, if Blankenship does win this thing tonight, does President Trump endorse him? Will national Republicans disavow him?
I think they're going to be in a really tough spot. You know, I mean, aside from the fact that, you know, that we're talking about someone who was, you know, convicted of a serious crime, just his nature, his personality, the way he communicates his positions, his rhetoric, some of the offensive statements he's made, he just puts them in a box again, where you're instead of trying to put the other side, meaning Democrats, in the defensive, they're having to defend their nominee or the candidate in the case, you know, if Blankenship happens to win. Here's, I think, the challenge. This is kind of reflective of what we've seen play out again and again and again. And I think, you know, Dana Milback actually, I think, got it right. What's happened here has been growing over decades. Both parties have had it in various moments, but it's really taken over the Republican Party. And this division has fed where they're eating their own. And in a race where, you know, they have 3 candidates, and 2, I would say, are arguably relatively serious candidates. I mean, Joe Manchin's a very strong senator and a very strong West Virginian. But Don Blankenship, given his past, his record, his rhetoric, is clearly going to be the weakest and most vulnerable candidate in a state that Trump won by 42 points.
Ken, it's hard to step back and not acknowledge that a guy who spent nearly a year in prison for being responsible for one of the worst mining disasters this country's ever seen, is it not hard to see why someone might have a problem with Don Blankenship?
No, it's not hard to say, but it's in the hands of the West Virginia voters. You know, you guys, this is a very elitist view that you think that the people of West Virginia can't sort this out. In the final analysis, whoever wins the nomination is accountable to the voters that elect him or her. And so let's go back to this. You know, don't paint a picture of a Republican Party that is eating itself out of non-existence. We control the U.S. Senate. We control the House of Representatives. I told you we control more state legislatures than the Democratic Party. The party that is on the brink of irrelevancy is the Democratic Party. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the problems that they are dealing with.
All right.
And governor's mansions.
Right.
Absolutely.
Ken Blackwell, we'll leave it there. Chris Kafinas, Steve Benjamin, welcome to the city. Always good to have you as well. Safe travels back to Columbia. While we
Mr. Mayor, God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to say something to the mayor. He's straight up. Way to go, son.
That's an endorsement there. We'll take that back to Columbia, where we do read the Washington Post, by the way, Ken Blackwell. We actually do read that paper in Columbia.